Which equation is true when x equals -2? That means we're going to solve these equations and we're going to see which one gives us -2 as the solution. My first step to solving any equation, like it says over here, is drawing a line through the equal sign. Then I circle my variable and its coefficient. All right, how do I get rid of -7? I add 7 to both sides. That's going to cancel that out, and that's going to give me 4x equals 15 plus 7, which gives me 22. What operation is happening between 4 and x? Multiplication. How do I get rid of multiplication? Division. So I divide both sides by 4. And that's going to give me x equals about 5.5. Actually, exactly 5.5. So, is this equation true when x equals -2? No, so this is false. All right, then I come down here and I answer this question. So I start by drawing a line through the equal sign, shield my -3x. Remember, if this was an inequality, because there's a negative right here, my inequality right here would flip. But there is no inequality, so we're just going to leave it be. All right, what do I do next? I would get rid of +6 by subtracting 6 on both sides. That's going to cancel these out, and then I'm going to drop down my -3x. And then I have 12 minus 6, which is 6. What operation is happening between -3 and x? Multiplication. So what do I do next? I divide both sides by -3. What's a positive divided by a negative? A negative. And then what's 6 divided by 3? 2. So this equation is true. For this question right here, it says a circle has a radius of 5 inches. The circumference is c inches. Write an expression that best represents the value of pi. So remember, pi is a ratio of what to what? Circumference over diameter. Well, if you look right here, it says a radius of 5 inches. So my radius equals 5. Now, if you remember, a radius goes halfway across, and a diameter goes all the way across. So we know that this is 5, and we're looking for what the diameter is because this right here says diameter. I can't use a radius for it. So how do I go from a radius to a diameter? I multiply by 2 because remember, I'm going from smaller to bigger. My radius is half of my diameter, so to go from radius to diameter, I multiply by 2. So I would do 5 times 2, which gives me a diameter of 10. Now remember, diameter is on the bottom, so I'm going to put 10 down here on the bottom. And then up on the top, I'm going to put whatever it says the circumference is. Well, it says the circumference is what? It says it's c. So we're going to put c right there. Remember, the first thing we do when we see shapes that have missing sides is we highlight our corresponding sides, and then after that, we look at caps. What does cap stand for? Congruent angles, proportional sides. And all similar figures wear their caps. And if I'm looking for a missing side, I'm really using that proportional side of it, which means I set up a proportion. So I know I'm going to have 2 lines. All right, now we highlight our corresponding signs. So PR corresponds with SU, RQ corresponds with UT, and then we have PQ that corresponds with ST. Which side length are we missing? ST. So that's going to be my X. So what corresponds with ST? 10. So I know for a fact I'm going to have to use 10. So I'm going to put 10 up here on the top. And then I'll put what corresponds with it, 10, which is X. And then we'll just choose a number that's on the same shape as 10. So I'm going to choose PR because that's on the same shape. Could you have chosen RQ? For sure. You could have chosen RQ. So then on the same shape as 10, I'm going to put 8. And then what corresponds with 8? 12. So if you look at what we just did, we have blue going across the bottom, and we have yellow going across the top. And 10 and 8 are on the same shape, so they're in the same ratio. And X and 12 are in the same shape, so they're on the same ratio. How do you solve a proportion? Cross multiply, so I have 10 times 12. What is 10 times 12? 120. Equals 8 times X, which is 8X. And then what do I do next? I divide both sides by 8. So 120 goes inside the house, and 8 goes on the outside. And what do you get when you do that? So we have 12 divided by 8. It doesn't go into 1 because 1 is too small. It does go into 12 once. 1 times 8 is 8. Subtracting that gives me 4. Drop down that 0. 8 goes into 45 times. 5 times 8 is 40. Subtracting that gives me 0. So I know that X equals 15. This one says to find the value of Y. So remember, I'm going to start by highlighting my corresponding sides. So 15 corresponds with Y. You know, I totally just realized that that says A. So hold on just a second. We're going to get rid of this question. I don't like that question. Okay, moving on. All right, this one right here says the area of the base of a triangular pyramid is 50 inches squared. The height is 13 inches. What is the volume of the triangular pyramid? Okay, so let's think about a pyramid. The formula for a pyramid is volume equals area of the base divided by times height divided by 3. So all we have to do is it tells us right here what the area of the base is. It says the area of the base is 50. Okay, so that checks that off. And then it says the height is 13, so then I multiply that by 13, and that checks that off, and then I just divide it by 3. All right, so we would start by doing 50 times 13, which is what? All right, so I've got 50 times 13, 0 times 3 is 0, 3 times 5 is 15. I'm on my next row now, so I add a 0. 1 times 0 is 0, 1 times 5 is 5. Add it all together, 0 plus 0 is 0, 5 plus 0 is 5, and then 1 plus 5 is 6. So then I have volume equals 650 divided by 3. What do you get when you do 650 divided by 3? 3 goes into 6 twice. 2 times 3 is 6. Subtracting that gives me 0. Drop down your 5. 3 goes into 5 once. 1 times 3 is 3. Subtracting that gives me 2. Drop down your 0. 3 goes into 28 times. 8 times 3 is 18. No, that's a lie. This is supposed to be 6. Sorry, that's 216. 6 times 3 is 18. Subtracting that gives me 2. I'm out of numbers, so what do I do now? Add a decimal, add a 0. That gives me 20 again. So then I have 3 going into 20. That's going to give me 0.6. 6 times 3 is 18. Subtract, and that gives me 2. Add another 0. And oh, that gives me 20 again, which means I have 216.66 repeating. All right, next one. This one is a little bit complicated. A circle has an area of 50.24 square centimeters. What is its radius? I'm sorry, I'm recording this on Sunday, so I'm going through and deciding what I'm going to teach you guys. I think I'm going to teach you guys this all together, so we'll talk about that. All right, this one right here says, what is the area of this figure? We know that area equals pi times radius squared. Remember, I don't like the formula area equals pi times radius squared, so how do I rewrite that? I rewrite it as area equals 3.14 times radius times radius. All right, taking a look at this 18 right here. Is that a radius or a diameter? This is a diameter. We cannot use diameters for radius. So we have to turn our diameter into a radius. So how do you go from diameter to radius? You divide by 2. So I would do my radius equals 18 divided by 2, which is 9. How do I plug that in? Area equals 3.14 times 9 times 9. I know that 9 times 9 is 81, so now I'm going to do 3.14 times 81. What do you get when you do that? 4 times 1 is 4. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 3 is 3. I'm on my next row now, so I add a 0. 8 times 4 is 32, so I write down a 2, carry my 3. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 3 is 11, so I write down a 1, carry my 1. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 1 is 25. Add it all up together. 4 plus 0 is 4. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 1 is 4. Drop down your 5, then you have your 2. And right here we have 2 decimal places. Oops, I'm so sorry. Right here we have 2 decimal places, so I need 2 decimal places here. And that gives me 254.34 inches squared because it's area. This one right here says a dancer performs 50 pirouettes in 10 minutes. She also does 150 pirouettes in 30 minutes. What is her constant of proportionality if y is pirouettes and x is minutes? All right, remember, if we see the word constant of proportionality, what do? We divide. I just choose whichever one I want to divide. If they give you more than 2 numbers, they're doing it to trick you. I'm going to choose my first sentence, which is 50 pirouettes in 10 minutes. So I'm going to do 50 divided by 10, which gives me a constant of proportionality of what? 5. That's it. The next one says the top of a table is made up of triangles and rectangles. The table and its dimensions in inches are shown in the diagram. Okay, so all we have to do is we just have to go through and we have to find the area of each individual part. I'm going to start with my triangle right here. And remember, it's a triangle, so what do you always have to remember to do? Divide by 2. I start with 30. I'm going to write down my area formula first. It's area equals 1/2 times base times height, but I don't like multiplying by 1/2, so I divide by 2 instead. So I would say area equals 30 times 30 divided by 2. To speed this up, I'm going to start by doing 3 times 3. And what's 3 times 3? 9. And then I'll just attach on these 2 zeros onto the ends. So I would have 900 divided by 2. And what do you get when you do that? Well, 2 goes into 9 4 times. So 2 times 4 is 8. Subtracting that gives us 1. Drop down the 0. 2 goes into 10 5 times. 2 times 5 is 10. Subtracting that gives me 0. And drop down my last 0, and that gives me 450. So this right here has an area of 450. And then if we look at the one down at the bottom, that is the exact same units because it's got 30 and 30. So this one is also going to be 450. All right, let's take a look at my next rectangle. It's asking me what the length of this is right here. Now, on your STAR test or on your CBA, it's not going to indicate to you that you need to figure that out. But we cannot use this 30 right here. Why can we not use the 30? We can't use the 30 because the 30 doesn't go all the way across. So I have to figure out what this number is that goes all the way across. So if we look going across this thing, this right here is the exact same measurement. So that up there is going to be 100. So then remember, this is a rectangle. And for rectangles, I just do area equals base times height. So I would do what? Area equals 100 times 30. Remember, to make this faster, we'll start just by doing 1 times 3. And that gives me 3. And then we'll attach on our 2 zeros. Our 2 zeros there and our 1 0 there, which gives us a total of 3 zeros. So the area here equals 3,000. And if you look down there at the bottom, we have another rectangle that has a base of 100 and a height of 30. So this one right here is also 3,000. And then I have this last little itty bitty part right here, which is this is actually a square. And it is a 30 by 30. Squares also are just base times height. And so I would do 30 times 30. And that gives me 3 times 3, which is 9. And then attach on the 2 zeros on the end. And so that gives me 900. And then how do I find the area of this whole thing? To find the area of the whole thing, now that we have all of the missing pieces, we just add it all up together. So I have 3,000 plus 3,000 plus 900 plus 450 plus 450. And what do you get when you do that? All of these zeros add up to just equal 0. 5 plus 5 is 10, so I write down a 0, carry my 1. 1 plus 9 is 10. 10 plus 4 is 14. 14 plus 4 is 18, so I write down an 8, carry my 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. So that gives me a total of 7,800 inches squared. And then we're not going to do this last one down here at the bottom. All right, so hopefully that helped you. Let me know if you have any questions.